Hello there, this is Sheldon again. Welcome back to iOS eTutorials. Today, let's talk about iOS multi-threading basics and let's do a demo together. So, iOS multi-threading is one of the most commonly used feature in iOS apps. Believe it or not, maybe 99% of the apps in the App Store has this feature. So, let's discover together why it's like this, widely used. So multi-threading is one of the most commonly used features in most apps, like I said, and the most important thing that you need to remember is the main UI of your app always happen on the main thread. So to give better user experience to your app users, something like image downloading will happen in the background, which can avoid the lag of your UI. Means if there's an image downloading in one of your table view, assuming you have a table view here, if you're downloading your images in the main thread, so when you swipe your table view up and down, your app will definitely have the lags. So to the user, your app looks not smoothly at all, means there's bad user experience. So you need to take care of your main UI, like the table view swiping down and up and down in the main thread, and put the downloading in the background thread. But why it is so most commonly used? Because the most common feature here, for example, for the Touch ID or some system level alert are happening in the background thread, means no matter where where this alert should be shown, it will be shown in the current view controller on top of your current view controller, but they are showing in the background thread. Also, probably you have seen this downloading indicator everywhere in almost every app, maybe, but they may look different though in different apps, but definitely most of the apps, especially for the apps who working with web services, will have this kind of loading indicator, because when the loading indicator is showing, usually something is going on in the background, but actually it should be in the other way around. It is that we want to show user this indicator because we need downloading something in the background, so the main thread will need a pause. But to the user should not see your app looks like dead waiting there, so the user should see a downloading loading indicator at least. So there are two most important keywords in multi-threading in iOS. One is called GCD and second one is called NSOperationQueue or NSOperation. So GCD is basically Grand Central Dispatch. It is C-based language. It's based on the C language. It has a lower level way to manage multi-threading, but like most of the case, it is good enough. So NSOperation is a API built by Apple on top of Grand Central Dispatch. So you can use NSOperation, but if you are using NSOperation, means you are using GCD, because NSOperationQueue is built on top of GCD. So why Apple built it? Because you will have more freedom, like cancel operation or add dependency between different operations in an NSOperationQueue. But you need to remember there are also some limits in the NSOperationQueue. For example, when you want to cancel operation, once the operation itself has already started, you cannot do anything. But the big advantage of NSOperationQueue is that you can add dependency. Means you can add multiple NS operation in operation queue. For example, you add downloading image 1 as operation 1, and then you have downloading image 2 as operation 2. So you can add dependency, means you can add dependency only start to download image 2 after image 1 is already downloaded. So this is a big advantage of NSOperationQueue. Okay. So enough words, let's use GCD and NSOperationQueue to download the images to practice multi-threading. And also one thing I do need to tell you guys means why I want to start this multi-threading courses first, because this is very basic idea of how you manage multiple threads in iOS. After these basic courses, I will give you some other multi-threading courses like Touch ID or um, um, also JSON downloading or XML downloading, and also I will show you guys some ways to use third-party APIs. Also, I mean, a lot of multi-threading things are waiting there for us to discover, but this is a very basic one, so I really hope you guys to understand first why we use this multi-threading and what the advantage of using this multi-threading. So let's take an example of downloading images to practice it. So let's get started. Here we're in the Xcode. Now let's create a single view controller named multi-threading demo, and we're gonna use Swift in this one. We're gonna use first image view, second we're gonna need a button, and finally we will need an indicator here. And let's quickly set up the auto layout with top spacing, width and height 240, I guess, and also make it in the center of horizontal. Same for this one, we need top spacing, width and height, and center in horizontal. For the indicator, we will need a different color and make it larger. And also width and height and horizontal in the center. Okay, so we're gonna update the frames for all the elements in our view controller. And now we also need IBOLids, image view. We need an action, download tabbed, plus we will need another IBOLid card indicator. Okay, so we're done with our storyboard, and now let's get started. So I prepare a link of the URL. Probably you can find it anywhere, but the reason I have this image here is that this image is quite large, so it will take some time to download. In that case, we can show our download indicator clearer. So let's define our string. Of our URL here, and also we will need a URL as URL. Okay, so let's actually put exclamation mark here, and here we will update our URL with string. Okay, first thing that I want to tell you is that Apple has already provided us a way to download URL from to download the image from a URL is quite simple, as I can show you if we put it in the download action. So first let's define the data is equal to data with content content of URL. We can put our URL as URL. And next we can make our image view.image is equal to UI image with data, and then we can put our data here. Let's run our project. So let's hit the button, and as you can see, this image is downloaded. Okay, so this is the way that's given by Apple, is that we will get the data from the content of URL, and we can update our image view with the data here. But actually, Apple kind of wrap things up. All this something, as you can see here, when we get the data, is actually from the backend, background thread. But doing this way, you cannot really learn. You won't have the idea of how to download the image from the backend, so background thread. So that's why we will not do it this way. And we're gonna do this using NSURL session. I think now it's only called URL session, shared session, data task with URL. We're gonna need this completion handler. So again, we'll put the URL here, but I guess it will require us to typecast NSURL to URL. Now we will have our completion handler until here to here. Okay, so let's give the name data response, and also error here, void in. Okay, so we're gonna check if error is new, is not new. Also data is not new. Error is new and data is not new. We will only do the operation when the condition is true here. And In here we will make our image view dot image equals to UI image content image with data, and we can put data here. Again, we need to typecast or make sure it's not nil, because this one will never crash, because only if data is not nil we're gonna jump into this condition. Okay, so let's run our project and some issue will happen. And let's click the button here. Once we click the button, the download should be begin, and also next our image view should be updated. But until now nothing has happened in our UI. Let's turn on our console and to see if anything is going on. Nothing has happened. Okay, so just don't forget, so I made a mistake here. We need to put resume here, because this downloading is a continuous process. If you don't put resume here, it means it kind of only triggered once, and downloading will never be finished, so because it's a continuous process. So let's run our project again. Now let's hit the button to download. Okay, it shows but very slow because there's some crash happen, not on our app, but it is crashing in the auto layout engine, because we are updating our UI not in our main thread, but we are updating our UI in a different background thread. This will cause a big issue. Sometimes your app even will crash. So Apple will force you to update your UI in the main thread. So sometimes you will happen to see this when you probably when you reload your table view or something. Just similar issue. You cannot do the updation of your UI in the background thread. And also why it's in the background thread, because as you can see here in this method, we are getting a different thread because we will have this because we are having this completion handler here and with these curly brackets. In Swift, if you have a completion handler defined in this way with a curly bracket and void in something, it means you're accessing a different thread. So until here, as your session share data task with things here, you are currently in your main thread. But once you get everything from the background thread and completed, actually it's in the background thread. So that's why we need to update our UI in the main thread. There will be two ways. So the first one will be using GCD, as I mentioned in our slide. So we're gonna use GCD dispatch queue dot main and then execute async execute. So let's cut and paste the code here. And if you hit button, the image is kind of showing instantly because the downloading is quite fast with my internet. But this is a way that you're accessing your main thread and then update. So similarly, we can do it with NSOperationQueue. Now in Swift 3, it's only called OperationQueue dot add operation. I think main, yes, and then add operation with block here. Okay, let's comment out the dispatch way and run our project again. And if we hit the button, it will do the similar thing. As we said in the slides, NSOperationQueue is just built on top of dispatch GCD. So actually, they both are doing same thing with a different way. Okay, so let's do something with the download indicator. So in the view below, let's first make it running all the time. But initially, first hide it. And then when we hit download button, we are showing it. And after download, we hide it again. And then we can run our project again. Build field. Oh, this is another thing, that if you are using some property in block, sometimes you need to add self to access. Okay, as you can see, initially the indicator is hidden now. If you hit button, it will spin to show the process, and then it will be gone again. I think this is pretty much about it. The only reason I made this tutorial is that this is a very basic one that gives you the idea of multi-thread threading in iOS. You need to understand the concept of accessing from one thread to a different thread, especially when you're jumping from the main to the background thread, or the background thread to the main thread. There might be some issue. For example, the auto layout engine may cause your app crash or give you a huge lag. Again, I have made this tutorial in Objective-C as well. I will post the link, and the whole project will be available in GitHub. And following this, I will make tutorials like JSON downloading, Touch ID, and a lot of multi-threading things are there waiting for us to discover. Please subscribe to our channel. I assure you I will upload at least 2 to 3 videos every week. Just let's learn iOS together and get better and better. Alright, I'll see you next time. Bye.